Lord, respectfully, I ask you, please give me ideas, humbly and respecting other beliefs and other philosophies. I very simply pray in the beautiful name of Jesus. Please help me. Amen. 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 I'm ready.
Amen.
We going, huh?
We're going.
Yeah. So this is take one, which is the only take we do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
right now. So bad.
Yeah, for
We
sure,
should go on
man.
tour, Frankie.
I'm
Give me a
down.
hug, man. Oh my.
No one has a video like that.
No.
No one has a video like that.
It's never happened before. This is scary, bro.
Out of the Lyricon Wind Driver, we got 3 signals that I'm using here. I have the wind, which is going both into the VCA of the Synchrodyne. Let me describe this quickly first. This is power. This is my voice. Everything you guys heard from that mashup came out of this thing. This is pretty incredible. This is this thing from Expert Sleepers, which I'm using now as a VCA. That's it. Nothing else. And this is a module that I control from, this is the brain that I use to get signals from the Lyricon into my system. So this is it. I built this beautiful little box and everything, and it's an amazing, powerful thing there. Now, I have wind coming up here that is coming into the initial input VCA of the Synchrodyne. Shall we do this real quick? The Synchrodyne is 3 parts. It's a VCO, that is an ultra-high VCO as well, that controls the phase lock loop. Is a PLL that it gets multiplied and divided and whatnot, and then it has other things like tracking and damping and the influence of those things. And then that goes into the filter, which is the heart of the sounding thing. It's literally switch capacitor filter.
Yes.
Which works based on clock, not too much, and it's not your normal
Yeah, it's
VCF.
clock controlled instead
There
of
you go.
voltage controlled.
So that paradigm right there blows away the typical classic VCO, VCF, VCA, and just by having a completely different paradigm of an ultra-high VCO that actually also is cleverly used as an input into the whole system, controls a PLL that controls the sounding thing, which is a switch capacitor filter, that gives you a completely different universe sonically. And this thing, I can sound like nobody else. I can always go and have my VCO, VCF, VCA, cool, beautiful. It's been done from here to the moon. It's also infinite, but this thing is freshness put in a beautiful 14 HP thing that is literally limitless. I know I sound hyperbolic, but it's the truth. It's what it is. Then, again, the input, the VCA, my wind goes to there. Obviously, it goes also to the end out. So I have both wind governing both the input into the Synchrodyne, literally the audio input into it, and I also have at the end a VCA. It's my double whammy kind of thing. By having
And you're using the wave folder too, right?
Correct.
Input, so
Don't go. You're going ahead.
I'm going ahead.
But do feel free to jump in because it's important.
Sure.
This thing has many different wave folders, an input and outputs, and I'm using both because I'm a freak and I love the sounds of these things. Then, by doing that input thing, I can have the regeneration or the Q factor here of the filter that adds a resonance to this thing, which is really, really, really amazing. Then, I can have the amount of how the VCA is inputting the signal that is normaled from the VCO itself. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Into this thing. So by doing that, you heard all those. By setting this thing in a different place, I have a different set of sensitivities within that. So I left it there because that's what I used last night with Hans. Then I have my normal 1 volt per octave thing going from here to here. That's my pitch from this. And I have 5 octaves of that. So 5 volts basically. Then what I did is from the lip transducer, from this thing, from the lever of this thing, which changes the pitch. If you see this thing here, you see, by doing that, I can change the pitch. That's my tuner right there. So not only I can do vibrato things and whatnot, I took the CV coming out of this transducer and I put it into the influence that affects both tracking and damping, which is a whole other thing. YouTube this thing, Google it. I'm not gonna explain that because I don't know how it works myself. I just know it kicks booty. My point is, by having this setup, with this division and these two multiplications here of what comes from the ultra high VCO, that is normal also as an audio input into this thing, and going through all this thing and having my lip into this, my normal pitch into the 1 volt per octave thing, and the wind, this extremely simple setup. You can have all the things you heard. That's freaky, but it's incredibly powerful. Now, by varying the influence, I can also change the behavior of this thing. I barely did this only. I didn't even change the tracking or the damping, which allows. I didn't even change the multiplications, which allows different harmonic content in the thing. I basically, what you heard, and you can see the video, I moved slightly the amount of CV coming from a lip control into the influence of the PLL, and I barely moved a little bit of the input of the VCA, which has wavefolder in. I like using a lot 50 to 1% more than 100 because it allows me more grit out of the thing. Cuts less. It's like less moogish, so to speak. And has a place. Obviously, we can do many clean things as well. My point is, for this thing that I like where I am now in my mind, I wanted the grit, and this thing can scream at that. And I literally, oh man, this thing never ends. Let me breathe. I literally used only the high pass output of this thing. No, the band pass of this thing.
Band pass, okay.
Yeah, of this thing. I didn't use the high pass. I didn't use the low pass. I didn't use anything else output-wise than a 2-pole with wavefolder as well. It's another wavefolder.
Yeah,
As an output, you can see it here. Now check this out. I have this beautiful little 2 HP mixer here that would have allowed me for 4 different things, which we could do later also if we want. But the thing is, I decided to go as minimal patching-wise, but to have the maximum impact sonically speaking. And I decided as a discipline thing to go with only one output, which is this one here, literally, that one, where I could have had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I could have dialed a combination of a 4-pole clean, again the 2-pole plus wavefold, 4-pole with wavefolder, and a 4-pole clean, and I could have, and then change here. I mean, holy moly! And then I didn't even touch having the triangle output also as an input into that, because the rectangle is the square is the one that is
square wave, yeah.
that is normal. So you could, so
No, the sawtooth is the one that's
sorry, it's normal, right?
Yeah.
And I could have used the rectangle, the square one. That's what I mean. I could have patched it.
Yeah, the sawtooth's way better if you're using the internal wave folder though, because
There you go.
Fold with a square.
But I've used also, William. I've used the square, and it's completely different sonic monster.
Yeah.
So that's just to tell you that with an extremely minimal thing, what else can I say?
I think it's all in the fingers.
No, I think it's a combination of elements, because without that, again, I'm gonna start where I'm gonna finish where I start.
Mm-hmm.
Where I started is, I cannot, and I've told you this many times, so it's not that I'm making this up now. Many times when I talk to William, I go like, I cannot bless you enough and to be impressed enough with just one module that is this compact, that literally I put this thing in my carry-on with me. I take this on the planes with me, and I sound like $1 billion. I'm incredibly impressed at the depth, the musicality of what this thing allows.
You definitely sound like nobody else.
Right? I mean, this thing is like a voice to me. It's